I never liked mirrors. When I was a kid, my mum used to say that everyone has something beautiful, that what really matters is what's on the inside. But that was before the fire, before the day my face became half mine and half something else entirely. I was 7 years old, just a regular boy, curious, playful, with an obsession for my dog Cooper, a scruffy mutt who chewed on my socks and slept across my chest like a baby. It was a chilly morning in early October. Clouds, heavy, the scent of rain thick in the air. The house was still quiet when my mom screamed. The old wooden shed behind our backyard was on fire. That's where we kept tools, old paint cans, and Cooper's food. But that day, Cooper was inside. I didn't think. I just ran. I heard my dad shouting my name. My mom tried to stop me, but all I heard was Cooper barking, terrified, and in that moment, it felt like the entire world could collapse as long as he made it out alive. The heat hit me like a punch to the chest. The smoke clogged my lungs. I couldn't see anything, just glowing orange and gray haze. The smell was brutal, burning wood, plastic, gasoline, something chemical and terrifying. My face started to sting, then to burn. I grabbed Cooper, but as I turned to run, part of the ceiling collapsed near me. That was it. I woke up 3 days later in a hospital bed. Cooper survived, miraculously untouched, but the half my face was gone. The skin, the features, the soft symmetry I once had. It had all melted away, replaced by raw skin and scars. My mother was holding my hand, crying silently. I didn't cry. I just existed. After that, school became hell. Kids didn't know what to do with me. Some were scared, others laughed, some just stared, whispered behind my back, gave me names: Two-Face, the Freak, Burn Boy. Even my little brother Ryan made jokes. At the time he didn't understand, thought it was just funny stuff, but every word from his mouth felt like salt on open wounds. Still, I never hated him, not really. I was too busy hating myself. I stopped taking photos, never went to birthday parties, never looked straight into a mirror. I kept the lights off whenever I was alone. And laughter. Any laughter I heard behind me felt like an attack. So I built walls. I got good at pretending. I didn't care, cold, distant, unapproachable. If people feared you, they couldn't hurt you. That was my logic. And for a while, it worked. I grew up, got into finance, I was brilliant with numbers, took over the family company after my father passed, turned it into an empire. They called me a prodigy on Wall Street, a self-made billionaire. But behind the headlines, I was just a man hiding behind expensive suits and locked doors. I never had a girlfriend, never even kissed someone because I wanted to. I didn't believe anyone could look past the burn, past the horror. Every woman who came close, as I wondered, is she here for me or my money? So I pushed them all away. Eventually I stopped trying. Life became mechanical, luxury without meaning, a mansion full of echoes. And me, just a man-shaped ghost inside it. Sometimes I wondered if it would have been better if the fire had taken me, but then I'd remember Cooper, how he laid next to me in the hospital, even with the wires and machines and my face wrapped in gauze. He didn't flinch, he didn't run, he just stayed. I think that was the last time I felt truly loved. So yeah, that's why I'm telling this story, because no one really knows the man behind the scar, the recluse billionaire, the monster people love to whisper about. But everything started with that fire, and everything changed years later when a woman walked into my house and lit a spark inside me that I thought had died long ago. When my father died, I inherited everything: the companies, the buildings, the boardrooms, the burden. I was only 23, just out of Wharton, and already neck-deep in numbers, meetings, contracts, I knew how to turn millions into billions. I knew how to negotiate with CEOs, crush deals, invest like a machine. But I didn't know how to deal with people. Not really. Everyone around me saw the headlines. Young genius. Wall Street's golden mind. The silent tycoon. But I knew what they really saw when I entered a room. The face. They'd glance, pretend not to flinch, smile politely. But their eyes always betrayed them. Some tried too hard to act normal. Others avoided eye contact altogether. No one ever really looked at me. And I never let them. I kept meetings short. Interviews, through PR reps. My photos on websites were old or edited. I became a ghost in a $100 million empire. I lived in a Manhattan penthouse with a skyline view most people would die for. But I never opened the windows. I never invited anyone over. I never went out unless I had to. My brother Ryan tried. I'll give him that. He became a lifestyle influencer, the complete opposite of me. Always laughing, always posting, always surrounded by people. He'd show up at my place with expensive whiskey or a new gadget. He'd try to drag me to parties, hook me up with amazing sweet girls who just wouldn't care about your face, bro. But I always shut it down, not because I hated him, but because every time he looked at me, I remembered the kid who used to call me Scorch behind my back. He says he was just being a dumb kid, but some words stay burned into you. One night, he brought over a woman he wanted me to meet. Blonde, perfect teeth, eyes too wide to be real. Ethan, this is Ashley. She works in PR, super smart, super sweet. She didn't know my last name, didn't even know what company I ran. I asked them both to leave. Ryan stormed out, said I was impossible, said I'd die alone if I kept pushing everyone away. Maybe he was right. My mom called later that night, her voice soft as always. Ethan, I worry about you. You're building a kingdom just to sit in it alone. I didn't respond. I just stared at my reflection in the black screen of the TV. The next day I packed a suitcase, grabbed my laptop, and drove out to our old family estate in upstate New York. Miles of woods, no neighbors, just an old mansion surrounded by silence. I brought a few books, my files, Max of course, now old, slow, but still by my side. And I disappeared. No emails, no calls, no visitors. The estate was massive, dusty, lifeless. But somehow it felt more honest than the world I'd left behind. At least here no one stared. I thought that was it, that I'd finally found peace in the quiet, that I could fade into my wealth and never have to show my face again. But what I didn't know was that my mother, quietly like always, had other plans. She'd hired someone different from anyone I'd ever known, a woman, not to fix me, not to save me, just to clean the house. But she'd end up sweeping through every part of me I thought was long gone. I didn't know she was coming. That's how my mum does things. Quiet, strategic, without asking. I didn't want a maid. I didn't ask for help. But she sent someone. Anyway, it was around 9 a.m. I was drinking coffee on the back porch, wrapped in a hoodie, staring at the mist rising from the trees. Max was asleep at my feet, twitching in his dreams. The house was quiet, just the way I liked it. Then I heard the gate buzz. I didn't move. Whoever it was would give up eventually. But a minute later, the front door swung open like it belonged to her. I heard footsteps, then a voice, young, confident. "Hey, are you the landscaper?" I turned, confused. A woman stood in the foyer, holding a duffel bag in one hand and a reusable coffee cup in the other. She wore jeans, boots, and a gray hoodie under a light coat. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun. No makeup, no smile. I blinked. "No," I replied flatly. "Oh, so the delivery guy?" I stared at her. "I live here." She blinked, then raised an eyebrow. "You? Huh, didn't expect the owner to be in sweats with bedhead. "You're Ethan, right? I'm Lily. Your mom hired me, housekeeper. Relax, I come with references." And just like that, she walked in. No hesitation, no awkward silence, no flinching. That caught me off guard. Most people either avoided looking at me or overcompensated with fake smiles and careful words. Lily didn't seem to notice at all. Or if she did, she didn't care. The next morning, she was already mopping the foyer while humming along to a 90s playlist on her phone. She sang off-key. She scolded Max for shedding too much. She talked to the vacuum cleaner like it was a co-worker she hated. And she called. The huge dining room, the ballroom of sad millionaires. I watched from the hallway, annoyed at first, but also oddly fascinated. She had no idea who I was, and she didn't care. That afternoon, I snapped at her for rearranging the kitchen. She didn't apologize. She just said, "Your spice rack was a disaster. You're welcome." Then she smiled, winked, and left the room. I should have fired her. I wanted to. I told myself I would, but I didn't. Because for the first time in years, someone was treating me like a person, not like a project, not like a problem, just a guy with a cluttered spice rack and a moody old dog. Later that week, I overheard her dancing barefoot in the living room while vacuuming. The scene was so absurd, so alive, that I stood frozen in the hallway, watching like some kind of weirdo. She caught me, laughed. "Don't judge, Beyoncé. Helps me clean faster," and went back to dancing. I didn't smile, not then, but something in me cracked. A tiny crack in the thick ice I'd built around myself. I didn't know what Lily was doing to me. I didn't know why her presence felt so loud in a house that had been so quiet. All I knew was this: I couldn't stop noticing her, and that scared the hell out of me. There was something about Lily that made silence feel full. She didn't ask questions. She didn't try to pry into my life. She didn't care about my money. She just existed in my space like she belonged there. Like her presence wasn't an intrusion, but a breath of air in a sealed room. I started noticing things. The way she whispered to Max when she thought no one was listening. How she sang the same 3 songs on repeat while doing laundry. How she always left a mug of hot tea on the table near where I worked, even if I never touched it. And I watched her. God, I watched her more than I should have. Not in a creepy way. At least I hope not. It was more like watching something human, something real, something warm. But what broke me wasn't her singing or her sass or even her jokes. It was a photo. I found her sitting on the floor of the library, dusting old books, holding a framed picture that had been buried behind a stack of finance manuals I never touched. It was of a man in his 50s, blue flannel shirt, weathered hands, a tired but genuine smile. She wasn't crying, but her eyes were glassy. I cleared my throat. She jumped, startled, but didn't hide the picture. "Your dad?" I asked, softly. She nodded, looking down at the frame. "Yeah, he passed away 2 years ago." "I'm sorry," I said, awkward but sincere. She sat back, leaned against the wall. "He died in the ER waiting room, chest pain. They said it might have been a heart attack, but he sat there for over 4 hours. They didn't take him in until he collapsed." She said it calmly. Too calmly, like someone who's repeated the story too many times to cry over it again. I had no words. I, Ethan Thorne, owner of real estate in 4 countries, couldn't think of a damn thing to say. She continued. "He worked night shifts at a grocery store. We never had much, but he always made sure I had new shoes for school every year, even if he had to skip lunch for a month." I lowered my head. My chest felt tight. "He sounds like a good man," I finally said. She gave me a small, bittersweet smile. He was. We sat there in silence for a minute. It wasn't awkward. It was honest. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the ugliest person in the room. Because in that moment, I wasn't a billionaire, I wasn't a burned face, I wasn't a monster. I was just a man sitting beside a woman who had also lost something. Two different lives, two very different kinds of pain, but somehow we understood each other. She didn't ask about my scar, didn't need to, and that meant more to me than she could ever know. Funny how a moment so small, so ridiculous, can shatter years of defense. For me, that moment was soup. It was a cold night, and I'd been in the office reviewing documents until late. I walked into the kitchen to reheat something, and Lily had left a pot of homemade soup on the stove with a sticky note. "Eat something. Billionaires die too." I smirked, just a little. I sat down, poured myself a bowl, and on the very first spoonful, spilled it all over my shirt. Hot, thick soup right on my chest. I stood up so fast the chair screeched. Lily, of course, walked in at that exact moment. She froze, then burst out laughing. Not a polite chuckle, a full-on belly-shaking, tears-in-her-eyes laugh. I glared at her. She pointed and said, "You look like someone just shot you with stew." I tried to stay stone-faced. Really? I did. But the look on her face of the joy, the life, the unapologetic realness of her laugh. I laughed too. God help me, I laughed. And in that second, I wasn't hiding. I wasn't protecting myself. I was just a guy with soup on his shirt, and a woman laughing in his kitchen. She wiped her eyes and said, "You should laugh more, it actually suits you." I stood there, stunned. No one had ever said anything like that to me. Not about my face, not about me. In the days that followed, I found myself drifting, closer to her. Not on purpose, at least that's what I told myself. She'd be cleaning the living room and I'd pretend to work at the nearby table, but mostly I was listening to her hum. I started asking her about her childhood, her dreams, her favorite movies. She told me she'd always wanted to be a nurse, that if she could, she'd open a free clinic in her neighborhood. I asked why. She said, "Because no one should die in a waiting room." That hit harder than she knew. For the first time in my life, I wanted to use my wealth for something more than business. I wanted to build something for her. But I didn't say it. Not yet. Instead, I just kept watching her. The way she smiled when no one was looking. The way she tied her hair back when she got serious about cleaning. The way she sang along to Shania Twain like the house was her stage. And the weirdest part? I didn't feel pathetic, or ashamed, or scared. I felt alive. Like I was slowly remembering who I had been before the fire, before the mirrors, before the silence. Lily didn't tiptoe around my pain. She didn't pity me. She didn't try to fix me. She just was. And somehow, that made me want to become more. Being around Lily started to change me. I didn't notice it at first, not consciously. But I started waking up earlier, just to catch her in the kitchen singing to the radio while flipping pancakes. I found excuses to walk by her while she cleaned. I started making coffee for both of us, instead of just me. And sometimes, she smiled in a way that made my entire chest tighten. I was falling for her, slowly, desperately, and it terrified me. One night, we were watching an old movie on the couch. You've Got Mail. She cried at the end, then laughed at herself for crying. I handed her a tissue and she bumped my shoulder and said, "Careful, Thorne. You keep being this sweet and you're gonna ruin your whole cold-hearted billionaire image." I didn't answer, but in my head I thought, I'd let it all go just to see you smile again. But the world doesn't like it when people like me fall in love, because I wasn't just a man. I was a billionaire with a scarred face and a reputation to protect. And Lily? She was a housekeeper with a big heart and zero filters. It was only a matter of time before someone decided to break what we were building. And that someone was Ryan. He showed up one afternoon without warning. Loud, energetic, flashy as always. He barged in with a bottle of whiskey in one hand and a phone in the other. "Bro, you have to try this Japanese stuff. Also, what's this I hear about you playing house with the maid?" Lily froze when she saw him. She wiped her hands on her apron, nervous. Ryan grinned and walked straight over. "Hey, you must be Lily. I'm Ryan, Ethan's cooler younger brother. Don't worry, I don't bite." Lily forced a smile. I could already see her shrinking. He stayed for 3 days, and during that time, everything felt off. He was charming, sure. Funny, yes. But he flirted too much. He joked too loud. He asked Lily too many questions. And then he did something that changed everything. He posted a photo, a selfie of him and Lily in the kitchen, both smiling, her awkwardly, him grinning like a kid at a party. Caption: "My brother fell for the maid. Real-life rom-com, y'all. Pop the popcorn." And just like that, my worst nightmare began. The post went viral. His followers loved it. Some laughed, others mocked. Some started digging for info. Comments flooded in. "Wait, that's the Ethan Thorne's house. She's cute. Gold digger vibes. Dude, don't let him marry. The help." I saw red. I went straight to Ryan. "Take it down now. Come on, man, it's just a joke. Everyone loves a good love story." "You have no idea what you just did." He stared at me, confused, but I didn't explain. I didn't need to, because the damage was done. And the next knock on my doors came from the past. Vanessa, the only woman I ever tried dating, and years ago, the one who left the moment she saw what was under my mask. And now she was back, smiling, but not for me. She wanted something else, and I was afraid. I knew exactly what and who she came to destroy. She arrived right before dinner. Vanessa, same perfect smile, same heels, same lipstick that always left marks on wine glasses. But this time, her smile wasn't flirty, it was cruel. Lily was setting the table when Vanessa walked in like she owned the place. "Wow, still like your home's dark and moody, huh, Ethan?" I stood up slowly. My chest tightened, my mouth went dry. Lily glanced between us, confused. Vanessa's eyes landed on her like a hawk spotting a mouse. "And this must be her," she said sweetly. "You're even cuter in person, very maid-core." Lily blinked, unsure if she was being complimented or insulted. I stepped in. "Vanessa, you need to leave." She ignored me, walked right up to Lily, tilted her head and whispered just loud enough, "You're playing a dangerous game, sweetheart. Men like him don't fall for girls like you. They get bored, or embarrassed, or worse. They wake up." Lily took a step, back stunned. I should have said something, anything, but I froze. Again, the same way I always froze when I was a kid, when people stared, when they whispered, when I felt like a mistake instead of a man. Vanessa turned back to me, smiling like she'd just crushed an insect. "I'll be seeing you, Ethan. I always do." And she left. The silence afterward was unbearable. Lily stood still, staring at the floor. Her hands shook. I opened my mouth to speak, but she beat me to it. "You didn't defend me. Lily, you just stood there, like I didn't matter, like I was exactly what she said I was." "It's not true," I said, stepping forward, but she stepped back. "I can't do this," she whispered. "Not if I have to be ashamed every time someone looks at me next to you." That night she packed her things. She didn't slam doors, didn't yell. She just left, and left behind her apron, her favorite mug, and a note on the edge of my desk. "Thank you for letting me in, even if just for a little while. This house was the warmest place I'd ever been. Take care of Max, and yourself. Lily." I sat alone on the porch for hours. The mug was still warm, the porch light still on, but the woman who brought light into this house was gone. Max lay beside me, resting his head on my foot like he knew I was breaking. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel burned. On the outside, I felt burned on the inside. The house was too quiet without her. The floors still gleamed. The laundry still folded itself with scheduled precision. Her mug was still in the cabinet beside mine, but without Lily, it all felt dead. I tried to focus on work. I couldn't. I tried to watch TV. I couldn't. Every sound echoed. Even Max seemed slower, sadder. He waited by the door for hours some days, like he expected her to walk back in at any moment. I found myself scrolling through my phone late at night, looking at that photo Ryan had posted. The one I had hated so much. But now all I saw was her smile, real, nervous, sweet. God, what had I done? 3 days passed before my mother called. She's gone, isn't she? I didn't answer. You want advice? She asked. No, she gave it anyway. Don't let your pain become who you are. That girl, she saw something in you most of us forgot to look for. Go after her. The next morning I got in the car and drove to Brooklyn. She had told me about the neighborhood once, how her mom still lived there, in a tiny second-floor apartment, above a bakery. It started to rain, of course it did. The sky always seems to weep when something real is on the line. I pulled up to the curb. There she was, standing outside the building with a paper bag in her hands, her hair in a bun, wearing an oversized hoodie that swallowed her. She looked up when she saw me. No smile, no anger, just pain. I got out of the car and walked toward her slowly, like approaching a wild animal, scared that one wrong move would send her running. I stood in front of her, soaked. She didn't speak, so I did. I was wrong, she blinked. Not just about Vanessa, about everything. I was wrong to freeze, wrong to let you walk away. I thought hiding made me strong, but it just made me lonely. Her eyes filled, not with tears, with something heavier. You didn't stand up for me, she whispered, because I've never even stood up for myself. I let people treat me like I wasn't human, like I was just a scar in a bank account. But you treated me like a man, like a person, and I didn't protect you like you protected me. I took a breath, took off the hoodie, removed the baseball cap, let her see all of me. My face, my fear, my shame, my truth. This is me, all of me. The broken, the burned, the angry, the scared. But if you let me, I'll spend the rest of my life learning how to be worthy of the way you looked at me. She didn't move, didn't blink. Then she dropped the bag and stepped into my arms. We didn't kiss, we didn't need to, just held each other on a rainy sidewalk in Brooklyn. Two people who had been shattered, finally holding something whole. Bringing Lily back was like bringing the house back to life. The air felt lighter, the rooms had laughter again, and for the first time in a long time, I could look in the mirror and not feel disgusted. But the world hadn't changed. Rumors were still flying. Blogs speculated about our relationship. Comment sections were flooded with opinions. Some defended us, others called it a publicity stunt. And Vanessa, she wasn't done. She started reaching out to tabloids, feeding them twisted versions of the story. He's desperate. She's manipulative. The billionaire and the maid. A scandal, not a love story. And that's when Ryan did something I didn't expect. He showed up at the estate with a laptop and a look of pure guilt. I fucked up, he said, but I can fix it. I didn't believe him at first, until he showed me the footage. He'd secretly recorded a conversation with Vanessa. She bragged about everything, how she just wanted to humiliate the little maid and remind Ethan what his league actually is. She laughed. Ryan posted the video online that same night with the caption, "This is what my brother had to deal with." But the joke's on her, because he found something real. The video went viral in hours. Support flooded in. People started sharing our story with hashtags like Real Love Wins and Beauty is Deeper. Even news outlets picked it up. Vanessa got dragged. Rightfully so. But Lily, she didn't celebrate. She just looked at me and said, "You didn't need to prove anything to the world. I already knew who you were." A week later, we were invited to a black tie charity gala in Manhattan. I almost said no, but Lily looked me dead in the eye and said, "You either go as the man who hides, or the man who's proud of who he's become." So I went. No hat, no shadows, just me. I wore a classic black suit. Lily wore a long flowing champagne-colored dress that made her look like a sunrise. When we walked in, the room went silent. Eyes turned, phones rose, but no one said a word. We were announced as guests of honor for a donation made in Lily's name to fund free community health clinics in underserved neighborhoods. They called her to the stage, but she looked at me and took my hand. We walked up together. I stood at the podium, cleared my throat and said, "For years I thought my scars made me unlovable, that I had to buy loyalty, hide from judgment, and lock away the parts of me that hurt. But one woman walked into my home with a mop and a playlist and cleaned out my soul." There was silence, then applause. Some people even cried, and in that moment, I didn't feel like a billionaire. I felt like a man, loved, seen, whole. I always thought my life would end the way it began, in silence, inside big rooms, behind thick walls, alone with my thoughts, my scars, and the echo of things I never had the courage to say. But I was wrong. Because sometimes life surprises you. And sometimes love finds you even after you've given up looking. A few months after the gala, Lily and I got married. It was a small ceremony. No paparazzi, no press, no over-the-top designer nonsense, just her in a white dress that floated like a cloud, and me in a suit I actually felt good in, standing under the willow tree in the backyard of our estate. Ryan was there. He cried more than Lily did. My mum, she held my hands after the vows and whispered, "Now I can stop praying so hard. You're whole again." We danced in the garden. A jazz trio played softly. Max sat front row with a bow tie and a bone. And when Lily kissed me in front of everyone, proudly, fully, without hesitation, I felt something I never thought I'd feel again: peace. A few weeks later, she told me she was pregnant. I didn't say anything at first, just held her. Then I cried, because the boy who once thought no one would ever touch him without flinching was going to be a father. We turned one of the guest houses into her dream clinic. Clean, bright, modern. She sees patients for free, helps people like her dad, like the woman she could have been if fate hadn't led her to me. And me. I've stopped hiding. Sometimes I still catch people staring, but I don't look away anymore. I let them see me, all of me. Because now I know what love feels like. It's not perfect. It's not easy, but it's real. It's morning coffee in mismatched mugs. It's dance parties while folding laundry. It's knowing someone sees your worst and chooses you anyway. And me? I'm not the ugly billionaire anymore. I'm just a fair man, a husband, a father, a whole human being. And it all started with one woman and a broom.